tzaddikim and tzaddiksis from around the entire world. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Rabbi Shlomo Landau. Rabbi Landau, how you doing?
Baruch Hashem, awesome.
So happy there. Okay, it's going to be tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, that's how many hours do you have?
Hours.
I'm a regular Jew, a Pashat Yid, trying to do my best, trying to share the beauty and the wisdom of the Torah, of being a proud Jewish person with anyone that I come in contact with. Hashem has given me the opportunity to share a lot of it through stories and through interesting anecdotes about life. And I try to share what inspires me with others with the hope that they'll be inspired as well.
Love it. Okay. Most people know you as a storyteller. You say stories, not meaningful minute, whatever. How did you get yourself out there, and what's the story behind you?
It's a really good question. So I'll tell you something really funny. I was thinking, what's the first time that I ever spoke publicly? And I remember that when I was probably about 8 years old, my parents made a Sheva Brachas. And this is a really interesting Sheva Brachas because we lived in Cleveland, and it was the son of one of the Rosh Yeshivas from the Telz Yeshiva, a very large yeshiva. And my parents invited 5 or 6 Rosh Yeshiva. They were all European rabbis who, somehow survived the war and were connected to a different generation with long white beards. And here the 7 or 8 year old kid has got to give a drasha. I remember I started, I think my parents probably gave me this idea. I don't know. And it was Parsha's Balak. And I started, and I'm like, in this week's Parsha, a donkey gave a speech. And if a donkey could give a speech, then maybe I can also. And all those Rosh Yeshivas with the long beards were all laughing. And I remember the thrill of the moment. And I'm like, I want to do this again. But it took me a long time, I think, until I got that opportunity. Basically, just to rewind, to give you a drop of background, about almost a little more than 20 years ago, I was presented with an amazing opportunity to kind of be a rabbi in an outreach community in central New Jersey. I was really a yeshiva guy with not so much formal education, but I had tremendous Ahavas Yisrael. I still do. I love talking to any person,
right? And
I did love Yiddishkeit, and I had to figure out how to speak publicly because a lot of my speeches had a lot of yeshivish words stark and geschmack and things. And people were like, "What language was that?" I'm like, Italian, And so I had to learn how to give classes. I also started being a high school Rebbi really young, in my mid-20s probably. So I had to learn how to communicate and educate. And at some point I realized people are listening. And once I realized that people are listening, I said, you know what are they listening to? And I started doing some reflection, and I realized that whenever I gave a speech, everyone listened to the stories. And I said, the more stories that I have and the better stories that I have and the stronger and more impactful the stories I have, I think the more people want to listen. So let me focus on that. And that's kind of how I got started.
Whoa. I'm curious to know, when did you start creating videos? Because you said you speak now. When did you create videos for me?
That's an excellent question. I don't know. I know that probably almost 18 years ago, one of my secular high school students said to me, Rabbi, you got to get onto social media. And I kind of asked him what social media was. And he gave me a crash course. And he actually, on the spot, he gets onto my computer, my desktop. I used to have one of those. And he opens up an account for me on one of the social media platforms, which is not so used as much. And he's like, Rabbi, you don't realize you could teach Torah to the masses. And I started doing videos here and there on that platform, and I started getting a few views. And then just one thing led to the next. And now I try to do a video every day of the week besides for Shabbos.
Right. Wow. What is the most crazy memory throughout your speaking / storytelling adventure?
So I have a lot of very interesting memories. I'll share 3 tiny ones. They just pop into my head. One is I don't remember what it was, but I made a short video probably within the last 2-3 years. I didn't even think it was so crazy inspirational, but I get a message from somewhere in a different place in the world, and this person got my WhatsApp number somehow, and they're crying, bawling, and they're like, you can't imagine what a bad spot I was in. I was in the worst spot I think I've ever been in my life. And somebody sent me this little tiny clip, and it just totally took me out of it. I can't begin to
Wow.
thank you so much. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I had no idea that this was going to be impactful to anyone, including myself. And
Whoa.
so you don't realize the power of what we can do when we try to share something, and especially if it's something that's, comes from Yiddishkeit, that comes from Torah mitzvahs, et cetera, et cetera. That's one cute little anecdote. Another anecdote is I was speaking at a large public forum, and I prepared really well for that speech. We do prepare our speakers, sometimes.
Right.
And Agav, like as a side, I mentioned like a 60-second thing. And all of a sudden there was like a gasp in the room. And I noticed that people started crying. And I'm like, what did I just do? I guess that the thing that I said in that 60 seconds, which I hadn't even prepared, was exactly what the people came to listen to and they were looking for. And afterwards, they all came over to me like, we can't believe you said that. It was exactly what we needed to hear. So like, it's a lot, I should say it's 100% siyata d'shmaya. You kind of put in your efforts, and sometimes Hashem just puts that thought in your mind and boom. That's the second thing. And the third thing just happened last week. That's why this week.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm sharing it. I did a class on Torah Anytime, probably a week and a half ago. I tried to do a weekly Parsha class. And I said a story about Chacham Ovadia Yosef and somebody who made a Yisachar Zavulun where they provided money in a Rebbi, whatever, very interesting story. And just randomly, a guy reaches out to me and says to me, Rabbi, that was my father-in-law of blessed memory. And my mother-in-law has shared this with the entire world. And what's really nice is that this guy who reached out to me was a Talmud of mine probably 15 years ago, and we really were not in touch. So we schmoozed where you're at, what you're doing. So that story brought me back together with a Talmud. It also brought tremendous happiness to his mother-in-law. His father-in-law's not alive anymore. And you never know, you mamish never know what your impact, your reach can be.
That's true. What are your dreams? What's something you really, really, really want to accomplish?
My dreams are to become the best person that I could become. That's my biggest dream. Hard for me to imagine that that's going to happen. I'm working on it very slowly. I would love the opportunity to get a little bit a broader reach, like to speak in South Africa and in Australia and in Israel. I haven't yet had those opportunities. I feel that I have what to share, and hopefully Hashem would give me siyata d'shmaya. So I would love to do that, but Baruch Hashem, I'm pretty busy now with what I'm doing. So I'm very grateful for every opportunity that I get to share something special.
I love it. What is a life lesson you can teach our audience?
Which one do you want? There's a lot of them.
Any that comes to your mind.
I think that, trying to produce content is a pressure. You know this. Listen, you're a producer yourself, right? You have to come up with the right guests and the right type of people that hopefully will make an impact. It's a big pressure. Right. But at the same time, it's such an opportunity because I try only to share things that inspire me. And so that means that I'm trying to come up with at least one piece of inspiration per day that I could share with the broader listening audience. And I think that that's such just such an amazing goal. Try to find one thing each day that you're inspired by. It could be a sunrise or a sunset. It could be that your kid did their homework without asking. It could be that there was a lot of traffic and all of a sudden it frees up. It could be something that you learn. It could be you felt close to Hashem, but don't go to sleep at night without having at least a moment, a flash of inspiration in that day.
Wow, I like it. Rabbi Shlomo, thank you so much for joining this beautiful, wonderful, and amazing Oliver Yourself short interview. For more interviews, everybody, please press the number below. And have an amazing day.
Thank you so much for having me.